Hi, this is Brad Linder with Liliputing, and this is Zotac's 2019 line of mini computers as part of their ZBOX series of devices. We are going from sort of new, thin, small, compact fanless devices with low-power processors all the way up to substantially larger but still small for mobile workstation-style PCs like this X3 P5000, which is available with up to an Intel Xeon E2136 processor and up to NVIDIA Quadro P5000 series graphics. So it's got a 6-core processor. It's got pretty much all the power that we expect from a workstation in a more compact design. Now, it's not exactly a small device from small form factor standards, but it is, because you can see that it's next to a much more compact version on its on the side here. But the extra space sort of allows you to put a lot more power in it, which is why it's available with up to the Xeon and P5000 with 16 gigs of dedicated video memory. So it's the sort of thing that you might want to be using for high-end graphic design or video editing or so forth. You can see we've got a ton of ports down here. We've got 4 HDMI, we've got dual Ethernet, we've got a bunch of USB ports, Thunderbolt 3, and so forth. And yeah, so that's sort of your top-of-the-line mobile workstation type device. Now there's also a smaller version which has 7th generation Intel Core i5 processor and NVIDIA Quadro P3000 series graphics. Again, sort of mobile workstation. Or there's the more consumer-centric versions like the Magnus EC52070D. It's got a horrible name, but if you look into the name a little bit, what it tells you is that it's got NVIDIA GeForce RTX 2070 graphics and Core i5 8400T processor. So this is more consumer-level graphics with ray tracing support. It's similar in size and shape, but it's got sort of design that's meant more for gaming than necessarily for professional class work. If we look at the back here, you see that we've got multiple DisplayPort and HDMI ports, DVI, Thunderbolt 3, USB, dual Ethernet, and so forth. And again, there's a smaller version which, instead of having a discrete graphics card, has a graphics card that is not on a card itself. It's actually sort of more integrated. This also has an NVIDIA GeForce RTX 2070 processor with 8 gigs of dedicated video RAM, Core i5 8300H processor, and again, a more compact design. So if we look at what's on this, you actually get pretty similar ports, but it's missing a few things. There's no DVI, for instance. But we do have 2 HDMI ports, DisplayPort, multiple USB ports, USB Type-C, and dual Ethernet. So those are your sort of high-end gaming type systems. This is an interesting device. This is the MI553B personal streaming mini PC. And what that means is it's basically a full-fledged computer, but it's got an HDMI input as well as video outputs. So it's something that you could use in conjunction with another computer for streaming. It's got a AverMedia video capture card. So the idea is that you could use a gaming laptop or desktop or some other computer to do your gaming sessions on, send the video to this so that it can be transcoded and streamed in real time without necessarily having to tax the hardware on the device that you're using for gaming. So it's sort of a companion PC. You could use it as a standalone device, but there are probably different options if that's what you were primarily looking for. You can see, though, on the back, we've got Ethernet, HDMI, DisplayPort, a couple of USB ports, and it is a relatively compact design. So if you had a bigger system or a portable gaming laptop or something that you wanted to pair it with, not necessarily just another ZBOX type system, you could do that. Over here we've got the CI600 series device. I actually reviewed one of these recently. You can check out more information at liliputing.com or on my YouTube channel for a review of the CI660 Nano, which is a completely fanless device with a 15-watt Core i7 855U processor. It's being updated in 2019 with the CI661 Nano, which basically has the same design and the same sort of fanless chassis here, but it has a Whiskey Lake processor. It's got a Core i7 8565U processor, which, from what I've seen so far, should offer maybe up to 10% better overall performance, plus support for gigabit Wi-Fi. So it's a fanless device. It's not the smallest fanless device. That would be sort of this little guy here. But the smaller models don't have nearly as much power. So that has a Intel Gemini-like processor as opposed to the, which I think is a 6-watt chip, as opposed to this 15-watt quad-core processor. So lots of ports here. You can see we've got HDMI and DisplayPort, dual Ethernet again, multiple USB ports, and it should be relatively quiet. The version that I tested wasn't completely silent, so in spite of it having no moving parts, there was a little bit of sort of electronic noise, but you had to get pretty close to it to hear it. So if you're looking for something that offers pretty strong performance and a relatively quiet design, that's what these fanless devices are good for. Also, it's something that's going to be relatively easy to maintain because there's fewer moving parts to replace. And overall, I was pretty impressed when I tested the previous generation version. The new one should offer slightly better performance in certain situations. Also, because it has more sort of room to dissipate heat than a laptop, because it's sort of a laptop class processor, I found that it actually outperformed a lot of laptops in benchmarks, even laptops with the same processor. So I'll be curious to see if that's still true for the newer model. The 3i29 Nano, as I mentioned, is another fanless device. This version has an Intel N4 100 quad-core processor. It's a lower power chip, and it generates a little bit less heat, which is why it can have a sort of smaller design. And this is a sort of larger computer, the BI329, with that same Gemini Lake processor. And then I've actually got a whole separate video taking a look at this guy because it's just so cute. This is the Pico Pi 470, which has an Intel Amber Lake processor up to a Core i7 chip. And it's basically a small but complete desktop computer, and it's the most powerful in the Pico Pi series that Zotac has released to date. So that's a quick overview of all of the mini PCs that the company is bringing to CES this year, and they should be available in the first or second quarter, depending on the models of 2019, with more pricing to be announced closer to release date. This is Brad Linder with Liliputing.